Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you a retro review plus on-feet video of the Nike Air Zoom T90 Supremacy, also known as the Nike AZT4. Now, as you can see, I do have the original box that they came in. Inside the box, because this is a top-end model, you would normally get a string bag, which unfortunately I do not have. Other than that, you got the shoes themselves, and then also they included these little kind of T90 logo stickers. There's two of them in this little bag, and they actually fit in a specific spot on the heel counter. I'll talk about that more and show you a little bit later in the video, so stay tuned for that. Like I mentioned though, other than that, all you're gonna find are the shoes in the box. So I'll get these out of the box really quickly. And as always guys, if you enjoy the retro review series on my channel, please keep in mind it takes a lot of time to hunt some of these older models down. They are fairly rare now. And once you do come across a pair, they are relatively expensive to bring in. So again, if you enjoy the retro review series on my channel, want to continue seeing these videos go up, be sure to support this video with a like. It is greatly appreciated and really does help out the channel. Now, this is the Nike T90 Supremacy, what a lot of people consider to be the best T90 model that Nike ever put out. It's also the final Nike T90 model that did not feature any rubber elements. It's one of the best looking shoes I think Nike has ever made, if you ask me. And in today's video, we're going to be going over all the details that you could possibly want to know, a little history lesson, if you will, on the Nike Air Zoom T94 or Air Zoom T90 Supremacy, whatever you refer to it as. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Before we get into the shoes themselves, I want to talk about where the Supremacy fits in the very long Nike T90 timeline. Now, this shoe came out in 2006, so also known as the Air Zoom T94, it obviously was a successor to the Nike Air Zoom T93, which was a very interesting shoe. And in comparison to the Supremacy, you can see that Nike more or less went back to the drawing board and redesigned pretty much every element of this shoe. Obviously, there are some very minor similarities, but for the most part, this was kind of an all-new design, and we don't necessarily see these giant leaps and bounds as far as innovation is concerned every single year like we saw with the T90 line. It really was a completely different shoe with every new model, which we saw after the Supremacy, where Nike launched the T90 Laser 1, which you can see again, by comparison, a completely different shoe. Maintained the same sole plate and some similar elements, but as far as the upper is concerned, completely different. The Supremacy was also the final T90 model to not feature any rubber elements, which obviously was one of the staple features of the T90 Laser 1. Now, in 2006, when the Supremacy first came out, it was a very popular model. It's a very comfortable shoe. I think it really does look the part as well. But it had a fairly controversial release in that Wayne Rooney, who was kind of one of the main faces of the T90 line for Nike at that point in time, still is one of the main poster boys for Nike even right now. He wore this shoe and ended up breaking his foot in them, which caused the media to more or less blame Nike, blamed the current state of soccer footwear and that they were getting too thin, and for that reason they weren't protective enough and players were getting hurt. So more or less, this shoe was blamed for Rooney's pretty serious broken foot injury. Now, if you look at other shoes that were available on the market in 2006, most notably the Nike Mercurial Vapor 3, which was a significantly thinner and more lightweight, less protective shoe in comparison to something like the T90 Supremacy. It is kind of a silly argument for the media to bring up. I don't think that Rooney breaking his foot had much to do with the shoe. I mean, you can't completely kind of write it off as not part of the problem, but I think all shoes in general are getting thinner and thinner, which is kind of another topic of discussion altogether. Don't want to drag that on in today's video, but what I'm getting at here is that Rooney breaking his foot and the media making a big fuss out of it really didn't hurt the sales of this shoe. It was still a very popular shoe amongst professional players as well as recreational players, and if you ask a lot of people who wore the T90 Supremacy when it was an inline model in 2006, a lot of people will tell you that this is one of their favorite shoes of all time, and I can understand why. While I've never worn a pair, just from trying them on, I have to say I'm really impressed with how comfortable they are, the type of synthetic material that's on the upper, and just the way they feel overall. So that's pretty much it as far as a little history lesson is concerned, and let's move on and talk about all of the tech specs. As far as performance is concerned, the Supremacy really does have a lot to offer, and I think it's still a very wearable shoe by today's standards. Now, when you're talking about what makes a shoe popular, it's not only the performance that's important, it's also how the shoe looks. And as far as visuals are concerned, I think that the T90 Supremacy is one of the best looking models that Nike ever put out. One thing that I don't think a lot of people realize about this shoe, especially if you weren't really around or weren't really into soccer cleats in 2006 when these were around, is that the graphics are offset on both the left and right shoe. So they're not necessarily opposites, but they are definitely different. You can see from the outside on both the left and right boot, the shoes appear to be very, very similar. But when you look across the front, you can see the red kind of overlaps here on the toe. You have your T90 Supremacy branding across the top of the tongue area on the left shoe, where the right shoe is left kind of all white with your red swoosh right there. This is the white, black, and sport red colorway for those that are wondering. And you can see on the medial side of the shoe, especially in the forefoot and midfoot area, the two shoes are completely different, which to me is just really cool. It's offset coloring, but not necessarily done over the top like we've seen from Puma as of late, where you have a pink shoe and a blue shoe on either foot, which to me is a little bit too crazy. Something like this, like I said, is a little bit more subtle, and I think appealed to a lot of people at that point in time in 2006 when this was an inline model. This shoe had a lot of great colorways, and like I said, in my opinion, this was one of the better ones, so I'm very happy to have a pair in my possession. Now, another signature feature of the T90 line was its unique lacing systems that allowed Nike to dramatically push the laces towards the lateral side of the shoe, giving you a nice clean striking surface for the ball. Now, this was, like I mentioned, the last T90 models to not feature any rubber elements. So again, one of the main features here was that it had a very clean surface in the strike area of the shoe. Now you can see the laces, it's a very unique system. You have kind of loopholes here, or loop lacing on the lateral side of the upper where it kind of splits off, and then this instep area kind of folds over top and goes right there. So it's a kind of all the way across. There's no actual tongue, if you will. It's just kind of a one-piece fold over the top of your foot. And then you have these little plastic inserts right here where the laces kind of run through. It's a similar system actually to the Magista Obra and the Superfly, where the laces go into the upper and then come out of the upper, kind of in one very close proximity type of area. So that's kind of a similar concept to what we're still seeing from Nike. And then you can see as you get to the top two lace holes, it gets a little bit more traditional, and it is of course split at the top. So in terms of comfort, as far as shoes that fold over top of your foot, these are very, very comfortable and actually remind me a lot of something like the Under Armour Blur Carbon 3 as far as design is concerned. Now, as far as the upper goes, this is the synthetic variation. The Supremacy did come in a kangaroo leather model as well. I believe that only came in certain colorways, and I unfortunately don't have a pair. I'd like to get a pair at some point in time, but the synthetic they used on this shoe actually feels pretty good. It's relatively soft. It does have a slight cushion to it. This is pre-Kangolite, so I wouldn't say that it's as nice as what we have from Nike as of right now as far as their synthetics are concerned, but it has a nice smooth matte finish there, so very minimal extra grip. And you can see that it's just really, really nice. The shoes are made in Bosnia as opposed to being made in China like a lot of the models are now from Nike. So a lot of their high-end models back then were normally made in Bosnia or Italy, which doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Obviously the Obra and the Superfly 4 are now made in Italy and Bosnia, depending on which kind of a pair you get. But like I said, they kind of held their higher-end models to a slightly higher standard as far as where they were made. That's not taking anything away from the China-made shoes from Nike. They're not bad quality by any means, but I think for the most part, more people would prefer their shoes be made in places like Bosnia or Italy as opposed to China or Indonesia. Again, just something I wanted to throw out there if it is something that you didn't know about this particular model. Now, it does have that a more similar cut that we saw in pretty much all T90 models after the Supremacy, especially in comparison to the AZT3, which had more of a rounded shape to it. So this is kind of what we're seeing on most of Nike models right now. A little bit higher cut right here, a little bit higher up the back, that slightly rounded shape. And again, just has a nice kind of look to it. It's a very streamlined, good-looking silhouette, if you ask me. You have your internal plastic heel counter, as you guys can see, and then that little kind of open rectangle slot, which looks a little bit weird, but that's what these stickers are for. When this was an inline model, I believe you could buy from Nike as well as other places, specific numbers, so if you want to put your number on your shoe. They also sold country flags, so it's just a little kind of area area they gave you on the shoe to customize. You could put these stickers in, it would fill in that hole, and it's kind of a cool little concept. Again, something that carried over from the AZT3, but like I said, a nice element that they included on this particular model. You're also going to notice on the inside, it has, on the outside of the heel counter, sorry, it has your Zoom Air branding, and that's because this shoe actually did feature Zoom Air technology. So I'm actually going to remove this little wedge here, remove the insole. You can see the insole has this little clear window right here where it says Zoom Air. As far as the insole itself is concerned, it's actually really, really nice. It's a solid black foam material, some extra perforated foam in the forefoot. And this isn't carbon fiber, it's more of like a vinyl carbon fiber looking graphic. Not sure why it's there. It doesn't seem to really do anything other than maybe strengthen this area of the insole. But that little window, and you can see the slight cutout here in the insole, is for the actual Zoom unit itself. So you can see that is a Nike Zoom unit. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this. This is still a technology that we see a lot from Nike in pretty much all their other lines other than their soccer cleats. And essentially it's just a little kind of insert of Zoom Air cushioning right there in the heel. And it really is a noticeable thing if you've ever worn a Zoom Air soccer cleat from Nike. It's certainly noticeable in their running shoes and training models, even their basketball models. Zoom Air is a pretty prevalent feature, and it's something that I wish they would still include in their modern shoes. It adds minimal extra bulk, minimal weight, but a lot of extra comfort and protection as far as cushioning in the heel is concerned. You can also see the base plate under the insole has a really cool graphic that matches the little underlay graphic you see in the upper itself, which I thought was a nice little detail. Again, just shows that they were really paying attention to quality in 2006. I'm not saying that they aren't now, but some of the details you find on this shoe, you just don't see anymore on certain Nike models. Other than that, we'll move on to the sole plate. You can see that this is the same sole plate and stud pattern that we saw, or a very loose variation of what we saw from the T90 Laser 1 as well. You got your bladed studs in the heel, and then pretty much all conical studs in the forefoot, apart from your two bladed support studs right there in the middle. It's a plastic sole plate, nothing too fancy. Definitely gets the job done. Got a nice length to the studs themselves, so traction is actually going to be pretty good. And again, I really enjoyed this stud pattern on the T90 Laser 1, so I would expect it to perform very, very similarly on the Supremacy as well. So that's pretty much it as far as all the tech specs are concerned and what you should know about the Air Zoom T94/Supremacy, whatever you want to call it. And next we'll talk about the weight of the shoe, just so you can see how lightweight they actually are. As far as weight is concerned, while this shoe is now 8 years old technically, it still is very wearable by today's standards, not only in terms of the performance features that it has to offer, but also in terms of it not being excessively heavy, even by today's very high standards when it comes to weight. So I'm going to weigh this pair for you today in real time. Keep in mind this is a brand new pair in a size 9 US. Going to throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 10.1 ounces. So right at the 10 ounce mark is, like I said, by no means heavy. Nobody's going to consider this to be a lightweight shoe, but I don't think that was the goal anyways. And even like I said, at 10 ounces, there's really not much to complain about. It's a solidly built shoe. It feels very, very comfortable, and you have all of the comfort elements you could possibly want in a 10 ounce package. So again, no real concerns here as far as the weight goes, and I'm actually really happy with the actual weight that these fall into. I expected them to weigh a little bit more, but as you can see at 10 ounces, it's definitely a very, very respectable weight range for this type of shoe to fall into. Alright, here's a look at the T90 Supremacies on feet, and all I can say is that they look great, they feel great, and I just really, really like these shoes. Now, as far as comfort is concerned, this lacing system actually makes for a really nice fit. They've really nailed the shape on this particular model, especially with the very unique lacing system that it has to offer. And as far as shoes that fold over the top, these are very, very comfortable, which is kind of surprising. Now, what I will say as far as the comfort is concerned is that this particular synthetic upper is certainly not as nice, as soft, or as flexible as what you're going to find from some of the modern synthetics that Nike has to offer, even from other brands. So with that being said, it certainly isn't as good as what you can get right now from Nike as far as the upper goes, but I can only imagine how nice the kangaroo leather version of this shoe is on feet. I'm sure they're very comfortable, especially after some break-in time. But again, that's not to say that these feel bad by any means. They just certainly aren't as nice in terms of the synthetics that Nike has to offer as of right now. As far as the fit is concerned, it does have a nice kind of snug fit overall. I wouldn't say it's narrow by any means. Has a decent amount of width pretty much all the way through, so it will be suitable for most foot types. Not sure how much stretch you'd be able to get out of this particular synthetic, but overall, very, very comfortable from right out of the box. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you do come across a pair that you want to order, either for your collection or to actually wear, if you actually want to put them on your feet, I would strongly recommend going true to size for the best possible fit. Alright guys, that's it for my retro review of the Nike Air Zoom T90 Supremacy, also known as the AZT4. Really nice shoe, one of the best looking models I think Nike ever put out, and I'm actually really happy with how they fit and feel. It's a very comfortable shoe. I think it has all the performance features you could possibly want from a modern day soccer cleat, even though these are now 8 years old. And again, I'm just really happy to finally have a pair of these in my possession. I was actually going to get a pair when it was an inline model, but it ended up being 2 weeks prior to the release of the original T90 Laser 1, which is what I ended up choosing over the T90 Supremacy. So for that reason, I never actually got to wear a pair of these, and probably never will unless I wear this pair right here, which I don't plan on doing anytime soon. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed the retro review and want to continue seeing the retro review series on my channel, be sure to support this video with a like. That would be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions regarding the T90 Supremacy or any suggestions for other retro reviews you'd like to see featured on the channel, be sure to leave those suggestions and questions down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you guys want to see more detailed images on a pair of these, of my pair, sorry, check out the review page on my website, linked down below in the description. As far as getting a pair for yourself is concerned though, they're pretty much sold out everywhere. It's 8 years old now. eBay is your best bet, but expect to pay over retail, or at least very close to it, for a pair of these. So you're not really going to find them for less than $200 or so. So again, eBay is your best bet if you really want a pair, because I know you guys always ask. I'll leave several annotations on screen to other retro reviews I have featured on my channel if you are at all interested and want to check those out. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.